Yet, the military came there with their chaplains, Christian chaplains, Jewish chaplains, whatever. Their services are held, and they are continually held. All these things which are not allowed by any ulama in the Jazirat al-Arab. Anyway, the government gave information to the senior ulama that there was a necessity to bring in these troops to protect them. And so they gave a fatwa that in case of necessity, it's allowed. Of course, in case of necessity, dire straits, you're allowed to do many haram things. You know, you're allowed to eat pork if you're starving to death and you're going to die. You're allowed to eat pork in order to live. It doesn't mean it's halal. It means that because of the dire circumstances, you're allowed to break that law. So nobody can ever say that it's halal to do this. But if it were possibly necessary, it was only on a temporary basis. Well, now America has acknowledged that there never was a threat to Saudi Arabia, that Iraq never even was intending to invade Saudi Arabia, and they knew it. But for strategic reasons, they lied. And that's common knowledge of harb khid'ah. So we were tricked or deceived by them, and that's not unusual. And this has been publicly announced by the American government. It's not a secret. So what we have now is the heart of the Islamic world is occupied. And at any time, if anyone were to attempt to establish Shari'ah fully, they're in danger because of this occupation. So obviously it was not for any of the masalih or welfare of the Muslims that this was done. But anyway, it was a mistake. And the ulama who did so were, I think now, clearly mistaken. But regardless of who is right and wrong, nobody said that there's only one opinion in this matter. Shaykh Safar al Hawali clearly said that this is wrong, and he clearly made known to the people the consequences. And this is what they're talking about when they said he criticized the rulers. This is what they're talking about. He warned them that if we bring those troops in, they could force anything they want to happen, and there's nothing any of us could do about it once we invited them in. You know, they wouldn't do it by looking like an invasion, but now they're there. Now they're there, and they're there for good. There's nothing we can do. That is what they're talking about when they say he criticized the rulers. He did nothing afterwards and said nothing afterwards. After the war was long over, Sheikh Abdulaziz bin Baz, Sheikh Muhammad ibn Uthaymeen, and the other, or most of the other members of Hayat Kibar Ulama in Saudi Arabia, the senior ulama, publicly supported Sheikh Safar when he opened his da'wah center, publicly attended, funded it, called other people to fund it with their zakat money and other kinds of donations, and did so on tape and in public before thousands of people. Sheikh Abdulaziz bin Baz publicly opened the center, which was run by Sheikh Safar, in his name, and put his name on the door of it. And all these people signed the book and congratulated us and visited us. Actually, my home was in that center, and I still have that home there. And almost every sheikh in Saudi Arabia, with a few exceptions, came there, ate dinner with us on many occasions, and talked to us. And it was all done by their approval and by their guidance. After the wicked people who plot the destruction of innocent Muslims and call for their execution and call for their imprisonment were overcome by their hatred and jealousy and envy, they sought to have the rulers close down this place and arrest the people in it, including myself, even though the king had publicly supported or privately supported when Sheikh bin Baz asked his permission to open it, and he gave his support and permission. Yet they ordered it shut down. They ordered everything stolen and arrested and broken, the money stolen, the computers destroyed, the books and manuscripts destroyed. And that was done, unfortunately. When that was done, I myself was arrested by the secret police, secretly of course. No charges were ever made. And all of our things were taken. Of course our families were attacked and unfortunate kind of things that happened. We went to Sheikh Abdulaziz bin Baz. Sheikh Abdulaziz bin Baz said, هذا ظلم, هذا لا يجوز, لابد أن يجب أن يرد كل ما أخذ. This is unjust. This is wrong. This is not permitted. Everything that's taken must be put back. He called the king, alhamdulillah, on my behalf. He called the Minister of the Interior and ordered that my expulsion be annulled, and he annulled it. So I was never expelled from the country. I was cleared of any charges, and I was permitted to live there, alhamdulillah, because of the interference of the Shaykh. And after that, until this very day, the Shaykh has always been in support of the other ulama who have been imprisoned. They've been imprisoned and accused falsely of seeking rebellion, which they have never done, which is a lie. They have been asked, of course, if there was such a thing, they were really rebels, the death penalty could easily have been applied against them. But they were asked just to sign a statement saying, well, we were wrong. And they refused to sign it because they didn't do anything wrong. And any day they could sign the statement. They were ordered to shut up. They were kicked out of their jobs. They were imprisoned and all these things. All they had to do was be quiet and say, we're wrong. And they will have their jobs, their money, and everything. The government of Saudi Arabia offered to Shaykh Safar to open up for him a markaz and an office in front of the haram, and to staff it, to pay the money for all the bills, to staff it with secretaries and whatever he needed, as long as it would be done under their aegis. But the Shaykh wanted to be independent. He didn't want to be taking their money. He did not want to be an employee. He wanted to be independent, to speak the truth. So when you hear these kind of things being made, look at the people who are sacrificing their jobs, their money, their families, their lives, even if necessary, and their freedom, for the sake of Allah, for the sake of speaking the truth. And look at the people who are making the accusation. Look at the people who seek in everything they do just to please whomever happens to be in rule. And when the people in rule change their mind, they change their mind too. When the Israeli peace treaty was made, the school books for the children in Saudi Arabia, every year the school books are renewed. They removed the references quoted from the Quran and the Sunnah about Bani Israel that were being taught to the children, about the enmity of Bani Israel towards Islam. They removed it. If somebody didn't speak out in that case, nobody would notice that there's being an alteration in the teaching of Islam to the children based on politics, based on whether or not today the government decides it's going to fight or not fight a certain country. And therefore it's necessary to tell people and make them aware that if your children are not going to be taught Islam as they were taught last year, then you're going to have to make up for that by teaching them this. This is the kind of advice that these ulama have given to people from time to time. And in no way is this construed as rebellion or any such thing, but it is an obligation that we know when the deen itself is being distorted for the sake of political objectives. And there is no harm in the scholars disagreeing one with each other. But Shaykh Abdul bin Baz, alhamdulillah, as I know by experience and other people do, is a very kind man who wishes good for everyone, who never called for anyone to be imprisoned, but who publicly called in the masjid after his lecture in front of 1,000 people that they should be released. While he did criticize things they said or did, which he felt were perhaps not wise. And this is being just and fair and having an opinion. And this is the way the scholars are. The real ulama treat each other in this way. The real ulama treat each other with respect even when they disagree. This is the way of people of knowledge. And the other people are people of ignorance, hate, and envy. And you can tell them by their sign. You don't have to listen to me. Just look at their behavior, inshallah. And that's as much, inshallah, as I can say about this, inshallah. And jazakumullah khair.
Is that all related?
I can read the question.
Is that all related?
These are all about the same subject, huh?
We've covered most of them. One or two different questions.
Yeah. You know, the government... okay, there's some question here that the government came to the ulama, the senior ulama, who are appointed by the government to be in charge of, fatwa, and said to them that these lectures are causing disruption and things like this, and if some people are causing disruption, can they be stopped? And the ulama said, yes, they can be. And the ulama said that, if it's going to be a fitna, then it should be stopped, and they advised for their own good. The Shaykh Safar and Shaykh Salman ceased those public lectures, which they did, unfortunately, even though a lot of good came out of those lectures. But they did not say, oh, they should be imprisoned or killed, or they're khawarij, or other such things. I mean, this is not true. There's no reason for imprisoning people, these particular scholars in particular, except that they are dangerous because they speak and that thousands of people listen to them.